only provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Smooth sailing. The first cabinet meeting after the political change goes without incident. Ministers say their main focus was on the Ministry of Finance. A helping hand. Former Governor of Northern Province Reginald Gray says that steps have been taken to provide dry rations to people affected by floods. What are their conditions? Have the real victims received them? Stunning revelations. CID reveals to the court that Namal Kumara, who's at the center of revealing an alleged presidential assassination plot, has faked his educational credentials. What's next for this investigation? What's the loss? Central Bank says that they are yet to ascertain the full amount of loss due to irregular financial practices. Forensic audit underway.
Now, all this has to be done in a very careful way, because if the process is even a little wrong, someone can go to court and the whole thing will have to start again.
All that and much more coming right up on First at 9 on this Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019.
මේ උත්සව සමයේ ස්මාර්ට් ඇන්ඩ්‍රොයිඩ් තාක්ෂණයෙන් එන සිංගර් විස්ටා TV එකක් මිලදී ගන්නා ඔබට හිත පිරෙන්න වාසි රැසක් ඕනෑම සිංගර් ප්‍රදර්ශනාගාරයකින්.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9 with Ndivari Amuwata and Mahesh Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very good evening to all of you joining us here on Adamantha 24, revolutionizing Sri Lanka's news landscape. Welcome everyone to First at 9. Ndivari, a very good evening.
Very good evening, Mahesh. I think we have a host of stories tonight from the Central Bank revealing its roadmap for 2019, outlining policy directives for the year ahead, as well as our analysis into tsunami warning systems. I think before that, we'll take a look at your top stories making news tonight.
Well, the new year dawned yesterday and today came its first cabinet meeting. That's not the only significance of the cabinet meeting held this morning at the Presidential Secretariat, but it's also the first to be held after the Gazette was issued stipulating ministerial portfolios and their respective responsibilities.
We're told that it was all smooth sailing at today's meeting. Several members of the cabinet who spoke to us after the meeting said that all cabinet papers which were presented got the nod of approval, Mahesh.
On that fateful Sunday, the 26th of December in 2004, an earthquake struck in the seabed near the Sumatra island in Indonesia, triggering a tsunami, devouring coastline after coastline, claiming thousands of lives. The magnitude of the earthquake, which led to the killer waves, was so vast, it recorded 9.1 in the Richter scale, with little way short of topping at 10. Gargantuan waves at speed of 800 kilometers per hour ripped through coastal areas of Sri Lanka, claiming the lives of more than 35,000 Sri Lankans, damaging property which amounted to billions.
Well, we want to apologize, viewer, for that story. That's coming up right after this story. But right now, we want to bring you the story about the cabinet meeting that took place today. Let's have a look.
Most cabinet papers today were related to the Ministry of Finance. Cabinet approved all papers which were presented. I think that we will be able to present the budget 2019 at the end of February and get it approved. We mainly discussed the vote on account which was passed in Parliament. The Cabinet also approved the recommencement of the Gamperaliya programme. There were several other cabinet papers on new appointments. We also took decisions to recommence several projects which were halted recently. No, we didn't discuss it at the meeting of the cabinet ministers. No, there is no such issue, since no one has officially informed us. There is no official information on such a thing at all. No, when they're given 300 million rupees, what else do you expect? With that much money, they can work better than a cabinet minister. Those are rumours. In any case, that sum is not given for MPs, but for rural development activities.
Now, a few days ago, Sri Lanka commemorated the loss of thousands of its people to the devastating tsunami which struck our small island nation 14 years ago. The number of lives lost, we do remember, owing to this tragedy is well over 30,000. If you do remember again, at that time, Sri Lanka was totally unprepared to face a natural disaster of such magnitude, especially since none of them in the country had witnessed a tsunami and felt its effects firsthand.
Indeed, but today we know better thanks to the painful lessons learnt in the aftermath of the disaster. Last year, the ocean lashed angrily with two mind-numbing tsunamis hitting Indonesia, claiming thousands of lives, and in particular, the tsunami exposed fatal weaknesses in certain parts of their government. This is why we at First at 9 thought of delving into Sri Lanka's preparedness to tackle killer waves in case they strike once more.
On that fateful Sunday, the 26th of December in 2004, an earthquake struck in the seabed near the Sumatra island in Indonesia, triggering a tsunami, devouring coastline after coastline, claiming thousands of lives. The magnitude of the earthquake, which led to the killer waves, was so vast, it recorded 9.1 in the Richter scale, with a little way short of topping at 10. Gargantuan waves at speed of 800 kilometers per hour ripped through coastal areas of Sri Lanka, claiming the lives of more than 35,000 Sri Lankans, damaging property which amounted to billions. Sri Lanka, along with neighbouring countries, were not prepared to face the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. In fact, Sri Lankans weren't even familiar with the term tsunami. All they had heard up to then was a local legend which said 2,000 years ago, upon being incensed by an unjustified execution by King Kalanithissa, the guardian deities of Sri Lanka sent the seas pounding inland. To appease the gods, the legend has it that King Kalanithissa's daughter, Vihara Mahadevi, was placed in a boat and sent into the raging ocean as a sacrifice, whereupon the seas immediately receded. It was after that fateful day in 2004 Sri Lankans realized that the legend was of a tsunami. Sri Lanka wasn't the only country which suffered from the tragedy. The tsunami mercilessly hit 14 countries including India, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Maldives, Myanmar, Somalia, Thailand, Bangladesh, South Africa, Madagascar, Kenya, Tanzania and Seychelles. It killed approximately 300,000 people, if not more. The need for an early warning system and preparedness to manage such disasters to save lives and livelihoods were the biggest lessons learned in the aftermath of the fateful day, which we did. But 14 years down the line, I was still prepared.
Especially the Indonesian Tsunami Warning Center and the Australian Tsunami Warning Center and the National Tsunami Warning Center of India as well, being connected with the Meteorological Department and the Disaster Management Center. So they are providing us the information for the tsunami, especially if any earthquake occurred in that particular prone areas. They get identified technical buoys and the information could be sent in 3 stations. The same information are sending from these 3 stations to the Meteorological Department as well as the Disaster Management Center. 28 countries will be covered by that warning system internationally. So we are testing that warning every year, and the warning comes to the Met Department. They certify that particular warning and send to the Disaster Management Center. We have a good early warning system, including the early warning towers and VHF, HF communications, satellite communications, and the media and the police and military communications, and a lot of other communications are linked for the early warning system up to the national level to the ground level.
Japan is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world for these coastal disasters. Taking examples from the Kamashi city, which was devastated in a tsunami in 2011, Satoshi Harada from the Japanese Meteorological Agency emphasizes on how important it is to have successful community response.
On the 2011 event, when the children feel the big jolt by the earthquake, they are all aware that big tsunami may come, so they evacuate further and higher places. That tells us those who take the safest action can save their lives themselves.
The phenomenon we call tsunami is a series of large waves of extremely long wavelength and period, usually generated by a violent impulsive undersea disturbance or activity near the coast or in the ocean. When a sudden displacement of a large volume of water occurs, or if the sea floor is suddenly raised or dropped by an earthquake, big tsunami waves can be formed. We need to bear in mind that tsunami waves can be generated by non-seismic disturbances as well, such as volcanic eruptions, underwater landslides, glacier cavings, meteorite impacts and other disturbances above or below water. The tsunami that hit Indonesia's Sunda Strait, which killed over 400 people and affected 14,000 people, was the most recent example of such a tsunami which was caused by a non-seismic disturbance. It occurred due to a dramatic collapse of the Indonesian volcano Anak Krakatau. After the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004, we are prepared for these intense waves caused by earthquakes. But are we prepared for tsunamis generated by non-seismic disturbances as well?
Indian Ocean tsunami warning system is mostly dependent on the seismic activities related tsunamis. So I think Sri Lanka also highly depend on that India, Indonesia and Australia warning systems. At the moment, we are not considering the other non-seismic tsunamis.
14 years ago, we lost thousands to the killer waves because of simple lack of comprehension on a natural phenomena. Today, however, people in Sri Lanka are scarred to the point that we cannot forget. Today, we understand. The nature of natural disasters is such that they strike without warning. Given what has gone on before, we should be in a position to mitigate as much damage as possible, minimizing loss of life. Most importantly, today, there is no excuse.
Well, over the past year, Sri Lankan rupee was devalued by 19%, making it one of the worst performing currencies in Asia as heavy foreign outflows from government securities weighed on the local currency. At the start of 2018, the nominal exchange rate of the local currency against the US dollar was 153 rupees and 46 cents. But as of yesterday, it stood at 182 rupees and 91 cents. Much is talked about the political impasse the country underwent recently, and over that 51-day period, the rupee weakened about 5.3%.
Indeed. That being said, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe placed the blame for the currency's slide squarely on the recent political uncertainty. He accused former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his cabinet of ministers for taking drastic measures in a desperate attempt to protect the rupee.
The new Orchid Yard in the Water's Edge Hotel in Battaramulla was declared open under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday. We gave Minister Champika Ranawaka the responsibility of transforming Colombo as the biggest megapolis in the Indian Ocean. Although you didn't witness the changes over the past 2-3 years, we commenced these projects. But now you see that the light rail transit system is to start soon. We will connect the city of Kalaniya to Colombo port and Rajagiriya via new bridges. There are many development projects related to the port city. We expected to commence a large-scale development project in November, but all our plans were disrupted because of the crisis that occurred. We had a foreign reserve worth $8 billion by August to September. We lost all that money within 51 days. In their haste to protect the value of the rupee, the then government spent more money. This actually devalued the Sri Lankan rupee. We must first ensure the stability of the local currency and present a budget. Managing the economy is not something everyone can do. We now witness the damage caused within a period of 51 days.
Now, inclement weather plagued the northern province for a week or so, bringing day-to-day lives of the people in the part of the country to a standstill. Well over 100,000 people were affected and their grief was felt by the entire nation.
Now, with the rain subsiding, people are attempting to return to their daily routines. At this stage, it is only right to ascertain whether everything that could have been done was done to bring relief to our brothers and sisters in the north.
Over 100,000 persons in the excess of 40,000 families were affected by the recent inclement weather in the northern province, and the government, with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Army and other entities, moved to relocate them to safety while giving them relief aid. The rains which caused floods in the north have now subsided, with people affected in the districts of Kilinochchi, Jaffna and Mullaitivu, as well as people who were being sheltered at temporary camps, have been returning to their residences. With the inclement weather easing, it is easy to assume that all is well and move on. That, however, would be immoral. Our attempts to get views from the people in the north on the latest situation on the ground proved futile, since they were somewhat coy of expressing themselves to media. Former Governor to the Northern Province, Reginald Kure, however, wasn't.
Now the situation is under control, so the people have gone to their own houses. We are continuing our relief actions. Government has decided to provide dry ration for another 2 weeks, and almost all the paddy fields and cultivations are underwater will be compensated after the reports of the Grama Sevakas. Some of the houses were completely destroyed, and the government has decided to provide them tarpaulin sheets and tin sheets for temporary shelters. The Education Department has taken decisions to provide all the books again. Now there is a rumor spreading all over the area. The early leavers has not received anything as a relief measures. But the clear decision has been given by the government and the GA in that area to all the Grama Sevakas to collect the reports and send them. All of them will be able to get all these relief measures after the reports of the Grama Sevakas.
Right now, we are in the post-disaster period where the people of the affected areas need the support and assistance to improve their lifestyle, because most of them who are farmers have lost their livestock, their belongings, and some of the houses belong to these people have been partially damaged, and some of them have been fully damaged. And the pupils, rather the students of the schools, also have been affected, and some of the schools have been partially damaged.
Reports of a suspected rise of the terror group LTTE have been appearing in media in recent times, and authorities were quick to display any possible uprising of the LTTE. But another incident which fuels suspicion was reported yesterday from Punyakulam, Vavuniya. A bag containing weapons was discovered on a roadside near the Nagantarampulum Kovil in Punyakulam, Vavuniya.
It is reported that the suspect abandoned the bag of weapons after happening upon some police officers who had arrived to inspect the suspect as he emerged from a forest area. In addition to weapons, some pills which enables jungle survival for lengthy periods of time were also discovered from the abandoned bag.
Puliyankulam police was tipped off about a suspect who was said to be carrying weapons. Accordingly, the police moved to intercept the suspect as he emerged from a jungle area whilst carrying a bag. With the sight of police, the suspect had dropped the bag and fled into the forest. Inspection of the bag yielded 4 hand grenades, a pistol, a stock of ammunition, along with painkillers, a toothbrush, toothpaste and survival pills, along with some sarongs. Security forces suspect that when a group of officers, including Puliyankulam Police OIC, arrived to investigate the matter, the unidentified suspect abandoned the bag and fled into the forest. Preliminary investigations reveal that the discovered hand grenades had been manufactured by the LTTE terrorist organization, and the pistols and the ammunition are in brand new condition. Officers of the Puliyankulam Police Special Task Force and the Army are conducting an investigation to capture the suspect. According to security forces, the LTTE terrorist organization had reportedly set up camps in the forest area near Pudur during the height of war.
An alleged assassination plot on President Maithripala Sirisena and former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa sent shockwaves across Sri Lanka recently. At the centre of the saga, Namal Kumara, who is the Director Operations of the organisation dubbed the Anti-Corruption Force, released voice recordings to the police which implicated the former Chief of the Terrorist Investigations Division, DIG Nalaka De Silva. The DIG was then interdicted and was remanded, but it now transpires that Namal Kumara himself has a checkered past. It was revealed in court today that Namal Kumara had allegedly submitted forged certificates to join the Sri Lanka Army and Air Force. The Criminal Investigations Department has informed court that investigations have commenced in this regard.
More news on First at 9 right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Time to take a look at business news. Now, there were several domestic challenges in recent time. Political uncertainty, especially during the last quarter of the year, amplifying challenges to overall macroeconomic stability of Sri Lanka.
Continuing with the central bank's tradition of sharing the future direction of policies, its Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy presented the 12th roadmap of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, articulating the broad direction of monetary and financial sector policies for 2019 and beyond. Speaking here, the Governor said that Sri Lanka is looking to resume talks with the International Monetary Fund after a 3-year deal was suspended as the central bank failed to meet forex reserve targets and a constitutional crisis erupted in the country.
By way of introduction to the basically the review of the economy, the Sri Lankan economy faced heightened challenges in 2018, emanating mainly from the global economic, financial and geopolitical developments that adversely affected the external sector. Nevertheless, considering the impact of global developments that affected external sector stability of the economy, the central bank has not implemented further loosening of its monetary policy stance since then. The external sector was also affected by political instability during the latter part of 2018. Political developments, compounded by concerns regarding fiscal slippage in the lead-up to the elections, were significant causal factors in the decisions of all 3 major rating agencies to downgrade Sri Lanka's sovereign rating. This, in turn, negatively affected investor confidence. However, such downgrading, only on the premise of heightened political uncertainty and anticipated rather than actual fiscal slippage, cannot be justified, as there was no solid evidence of a deterioration in the macroeconomic policies or in macroeconomic fundamentals. This was evidenced by the good progress that was made in completing the 5th review of the extended fund facility of the International Monetary Fund until 26 October 2018. Sri Lanka continued to receive the assistance under the EFF, and we received the 5th tranche of the program in June 2018. We look forward to the successful completion of the IMF-EFF program in 2019. We are optimistic that staff-level agreements reached in principle with the IMF on the 26th of October on the 5th review will proceed to the next level in the coming weeks.
Now, if you remember, the Presidential Commission that inquired into irregularities in the central bank bond issuance during the period from February 2015 to March 2016 recommended to conduct a forensic audit to obtain accurate information regarding the financial malpractices and to ascertain the actual loss to the economy. However, President Maithripala Sirisena, speaking at the closed-door meeting with representatives of the UNP-led United National Front following the reappointment of Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Prime Minister in December, raised that the forensic audit was yet to be carried out.
Now, in fact, Mahesh, the President had strong words on the matter. He said even though an year had lapsed since taking a decision to conduct a forensic audit, it had not been implemented as desired, and that officials of the Attorney General's Department had raised this as a grave lapse. Responding to reporters, however, following the unveiling of the roadmap monetary and financial sector policies for 2019 and beyond, Central Bank's Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy stated that the forensic audit was in fact ongoing and that the process will complete before the end of this year.
This is a very complex process, and we got the assistance of the Auditor General to make sure that the terms of reference were robust. Now, all this has to be done in a very careful way, because if the process is even a little wrong, someone can go to court and the whole thing will have to start again. So you can't rush these things. I have been extremely careful. As I said, if there's even a little bit that is wrong in this process, it can be challenged in court and then we start all over again. So this is why it has taken a long time. Each of the forensic audits is expected to take a different length of time. Some 1 or 2 are for 3 months, and I think the longest one is about 9 months. So if things go according to schedule, everything should be completed by the end of this year.
Did the President ask you all about the progress, or didn't you all inform President about the process?
He had a meeting at which he, was told about the process, but also about maybe 3-4 months ago, we sent him a...
So he knew the process and the reasons for delay before sacking the government?
No, I don't think he sacked the government on this.
That's one of the reasons he was mentioned.
I don't think so.
No. In his speech, he said that is also one of the reasons for sacking. The recommendations of the Presidential Commission on the Central Bank had not taken place.
That's right. I think he said he talked about the recommendations as a whole and some of the other inquiries and certain commissions and things like that. I don't think he specifically mentioned the forensic.
No, he said that.
No, he said it has taken a long time. That is true, but that. Maybe in his view it has taken a long time. But
no, haven't you all informed him? Keep him informed about the process.
We have kept his secretariat informed. We have sent a report to the Presidential Secretariat on the 26th of October, which is essentially just a progress report as to what actions we have taken on each of them. That was on the 26th of October.
The day yes. President sacked the government.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So,
is it after the sacking or before the sacking?
That I suspect it was probably after.
The Governor of the Central Bank also went on to touch on the plans related to the international sovereign bond issuance for this year.
Yeah, and also we are working towards an international sovereign bond issuance as well. But the good thing about the sovereign bond is, say 5 or 10 years is available, so it's a longer term.
Governor, in November, was there any political push to spend reserves to defend the currency?
No.
And from what we see now, you
actually, I must tell you, right through for some time now, for over a year really, there has been no political push for us to do anything.
And we have with us a research specialist in financial and capital markets. I'd like to introduce Adamantha Matthew. Adamantha, welcome, Happy New Year. Wonderful to have you here in our studios. But we heard the central bank governor say before the sacking, after the sacking, there have been certain developments in Sri Lanka, but specifically financial and capital markets. If we talk about that, what is suddenly the outlook for Sri Lanka?
Yeah. So Happy New Year to everyone. If you look at the financial and capital markets, I don't think the uncertainty that was created over the last 3-4 months, I don't think it's going to get unfolded immediately.
Right.
So because
why do you say that?
Because now if you seriously look at it, now the rate hikes in the Federal Reserve is likely to continue, obviously with certain delays with the growth factor and so on. But if you look at our reserves position, it's pretty low now. We've come below, according to the governor, we've come below the 7 billion mark also.
But the government says it's manageable.
Yeah, but if you really look at it now, 4 months of imports, we roughly have about $2 billion of imports a month. So roughly about $8 billion of imports is where Sri Lanka would be comfortable with, and that's what we had before September situation.
Right.
But then with the rollovers of the loans not happening properly and probably some delays in the China Development Bank loan coming, so our reserves actually fell below the 8 billion mark, and now it's falling below the 7 billion mark, because now what happens is with this political crisis that got created, the
loans that were supposed to roll over, and we were going to go into the capital markets and raise more funding because we have a maturity in January, which is $1 billion we had to pay out. And that is also happening. So with those things on the cards, so reserves are likely to go down even further, and the rollovers are getting delayed. Yes, obviously we can renegotiate and come back, but that's going to affect the exchange rate and foreign investors' confidence.
Now, the rupee fell to a record low today, and it seems that the dollar may weaken this year. That's what foreign exchange strategists overseas predict. But what is your view on the Sri Lankan rupee per se? Because we saw the rupee falling some 19% last year, but again, a lot of foreign outflows, and we did mention about policy uncertainty. We saw some ad hoc measures taken during the last year, throughout the year, be it the interim government, the government before the sacking or after the sacking. We did see a lot of uncertainty. But going forward, is this a period that we can actually resurrect the economy and change the damage, come back from the damage that was caused?
Even this year, it's likely to be slightly similar to last year. Obviously, I'm not saying that they are going to have around 18% depreciation, but our Sri Lanka's average depreciation is likely to be around 4% usually. We are anyway a net importer, so obviously the rupee tends to depreciate. But we, as First Capital Research, target slightly above the average amount, which is about 6% for 2019. That is also because the rate hikes in the Federal Reserve and the fund flow towards the US is going to continue at least during the first half of the year. Obviously, it's going to slow down with the US slowing down, but this is going to weaken the Sri Lankan rupee, especially in the first half. Even more. So we'll have more accelerated depreciation probably in this first half of the year, and probably then slowing down, and also once we get our act together and our reserves start building up again, then only there will be some confidence levels in the market.
Thank you, Adamantha, for your time here. We'll quickly go in for a short commercial break. Be right back with your international and sports news.
Time now to move on to international news. Now, China today stepped up its latest attempt to convince the people of Taiwan to accept that the country must reunite with China. In a speech marking 40 years since the start of improving ties, Chinese President Xi Jinping reiterated Beijing's call for peaceful unification on a one-country, two-system basis, but urged the people of Taiwan to accept it must and will be reunited with China. Now, Taiwan is self-governed, enjoying de facto independence, but has never formally declared independence from the mainland. Beijing considers the island to be a breakaway province, and Xi's comments are in line with China's long-standing policy towards reunification.
China's President Xi Jinping today issued a defiant warning against Taiwan, saying China reserves the right to use force to bring Taiwan under its control, but will strive to achieve peaceful reunification with the self-ruled island that has a bright future under Chinese rule. Taiwan is China's most sensitive issue and is claimed by Beijing as its sacred territory. Beijing has regularly sent military aircraft and ships to circle the island on drills. Xi has stepped up pressure on the proudly democratic island since Tsai Ing-wen from the pro-independence Democratic Progressive Party became president in 2016. Xi has set great personal store in resolving what the Communist Party calls the Taiwan issue, holding a landmark meeting with the then Taiwanese president Ma Ying-jeou in Singapore in late 2015 before Tsai was elected. Speaking at Beijing's Great Hall of the People on the 40th anniversary of a key Taiwan policy statement, she sought to reassure people in Taiwan that there was nothing to fear from Chinese rule. Most people in Taiwan, however, have shown no interest in being run by autocratic Beijing. China's latest statement of intent on Taiwan comes a day after Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen said that China must use peaceful means to resolve its differences with Taiwan and respect its democratic values.
Well, with that, we end tonight's First at 9. We are out of time. For more information for all the stories you saw tonight, you can visit www.otherthan.lk, and also you can visit all our social media sites. I'm Mahesh Johnny.
And I'm Devalued. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a pleasant evening. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Good night.